This is the Savvy Investor radio show and podcast. For help with your retirement, schedule a 15-minute phone conversation with the team at ProStatus Financial Advisors today. Just call 866-597-1040 and at thesavvyinvestorradio.com.
So most of us look at our 401ks and we want to just know a couple of things. Is it up? Is it down? How are we doing? Very few of us dive into what's actually in there. So I came across this article on Investopedia.com that says we should. And we might find that it is way too much tech in these. So Ryan, let's talk about this because, man, now we're seeing everywhere you look, you're seeing NVIDIA, you're seeing Bitcoin, you're seeing all this cool, shiny stuff. Is this what we need to be focusing on, especially for those of us that are, staring retirement, down the barrel here and it's getting close? Do we want to be getting into all these speculative things and all these tech funds and all these shiny new things that we're getting bombarded with?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that all of it is speculative. I would say that in my opinion, this is my opinion, that Bitcoin and those cryptocurrencies, those are pretty highly speculative. But, when it comes to NVIDIA, Apple, Amazon, really the Magnificent Seven, the seven largest stocks on the S&P 500, I would just caution against going, all in on those things or going too heavily in those, but in that same breath, those seven stocks accounted for 53% of the total gain of the S&P 500 last year, which is, you think about that. There's 500 stocks on the S&P 500. That's what it stands for. And seven of them gave you half of the gain out of all of it. So yes, you want to have exposure to those things, but you don't want to have your entire portfolio be in those particular stocks. If you take those seven stocks out of the S&P 500, which I think was up like 22%, somewhere in that range last year, the overall S&P 500, 493 stocks were only up 11%. For that year. So, you always want to look at the overall holdings that you have in your portfolio, whether it's just your 401k, whether it's your IRA you have with Vanguard or T. Rowe or a brokerage account, or the money that you have with Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley or whomever it is. You always want to do a regular check-in on the overall allocation that you have, because you don't want one particular area to be too heavily invested in any one spot. And, considering if you owned NVIDIA, you own Apple, you own Amazon, Google, Netflix, if you own I'm going to butcher the name, Planeteer, one of the government defense contractors, they had a gangbuster year. And so if you had a significant amount of money in your portfolio in those particular areas, well, chances are, if you started at 25% in those things, now you own significantly more than that. And if one of those stocks performs poorly, they'll bring down the entire S&P 500. So you want to make sure that you have a properly diversified portfolio, that you're not too heavily weighted in any one area. And if you own individual stocks, that's really easy to figure out because you can see the individual stocks. Sure. But the really confusing part comes with those 401ks, those 403bs, those 457s, because you are almost always, now there are exceptions to this, but you are almost always limited to just using mutual funds. The American Funds Growth Fund of America, the T. Rowe Price Large Cap Growth, the Vanguard Small Cap Value Fund, whatever those funds are, you're buying them. At least most people, when you think about your 401k, you look at your 401k, you look at the names of them, you look at, do I recognize the brand, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, American Funds, whatever they happen to be, you look at that first. Is it a known brand that I know, that I recognize? Well, if I recognize it, that must mean it's a good company. It's not always the case, but you look at that and then you look at the returns. You never, ever go into looking at what specifically the underlying holdings are. And part of the overall financial process of anybody that ever comes in to sit down with us, when you call us at 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040, is we do what's called a portfolio x-ray or a 401 x-ray. I'm asking you to send me copies of all your statements ahead of time, because I want to run a detailed analysis of everything that you own in all your accounts. Now, you can leave out account numbers. I don't care about that. I just care about, here's what you own. Here's how many shares you have of it. And, conversely, here's the dollar value of it. But what I'm trying to figure out is that, okay, you own the Growth Fund of America with American funds, and then you own the T. Rowe Price Large Cap Value Fund. And, that makes up 40% of your portfolio. What most people don't realize is those mutual funds, all mutual funds are a big basket of stocks and bonds. Mm-hmm. It's a mutual fund manager that picks and chooses those stocks and bonds based upon what he feels is better or worse. He buys and sells at his discretion. But what most people don't realize is just because you have, in my 401k, I've got, access to 50 different mutual funds. I've got it in 15 different mutual funds across all these different areas. So I have diversification. Well, unfortunately, what we see quite often is that, while yes, you have diversification because not all your money's in one place, meaning it's not all in one mutual fund or in one family of mutual funds. You're not in all Vanguard, you're not in all T. Rowe, you have it kind of split out. Not just to pick on those are just, names Sure. that come to the top of my mind. But what they don't think about is all of those mutual funds, they all own stocks. What we're showing you with that portfolio x-ray is how much of each of those stocks do those mutual funds own? So how much NVIDIA stock does the T. Rowe Price Fund have? How much NVIDIA stock does the American Funds Fund have? So what that really tells us is here's how much risk you're actually taking in your portfolio. Here's how much overlap you have in your portfolio, because you don't want to go to a barbecue and everybody has to bring something and everybody brings ketchup. You want to go to a barbecue where there's ketchup, there's mayonnaise, there's mustard, there's relish, there's hot sauce, there's barbecue sauce. You want to have that well-diversified barbecue, that well-diversified portfolio, to make sure that if one little thing happens in the market, it's not going to drag down your entire portfolio.
Ryan, as we are, as we're going to the SavvyInvestorRadio.com right now, and we're thinking about our own particular situation. And of course, you can't make blanket statements here, but when you guys when you and your team run this 401k x-ray on our portfolios, are we taking too much risk? Generally speaking, not enough risk? Are we out of balance? What's the biggest thing that you see in regards to portfolios when you guys get those?
I mean, I would say probably 95% of the time, people are always taking on way more risk.
Too much.
Than they actually think that they're taking. People will come in the office and say, I'm a moderate investor. I'm a 60-40 investor. I'm a 70-30 investor, whatever it happens to be. And, more often than not, they are way more aggressive. They have way more money in equities than they think they do. They have way more money internationally than they think they do, because really what they're doing is they're looking at all of their investment accounts separately. I look at my 401k at one time. I look at my IRA at another time. I look at my wife's 401k. I look at my brokerage account. I look at all these accounts individually, and I buy, once again, people tend, when you're buying, things for yourself, you tend to buy name brand items because those are the quality brands. You tend to do the same thing. You look for the name brand mutual funds. You look for the name brand investments, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's more likely the way that people tend to go. And what that really leads to is, I put money in the American Funds Growth from America here. I put it over there. I put it over here. And thinking that I'm keeping the same moderate allocation across everything is not normally what happens. More often than not, people are way more aggressive than they think they are, and they're way more aggressive than they need to be. One of the best things about coming in and sitting down with Mike, myself, and our team here is, we are going to show you, here's how much risk you need to take to accomplish the goal. Once we accomplish your goal, and the goal is always to retire comfortably, to retire with the income that you need so that you will never outlive your money. You don't have to worry about the ups and downs of the market. Once we make sure that your portfolio is set up in a way that you're going to have the income that you need, everything else that we're not using to generate that income for in retirement, well, that can be as aggressive as you want to be, because if you want to see 20% returns when the market is zooming, you can do that, because I have the income I need. The market's up 20%. I feel great about it. Conversely, the stock market drops 20%. That super aggressive portfolio is down 20% or more. Well, I don't feel great about it because I've lost money, but I have set myself up in a way that no matter what happens, I have the income that I need. I don't care about what happens in the market because every single month, year in, year out, I have the income coming in. I can be super aggressive because I want to see those returns, or, I want to be more realistic in my expectations and just earn 5-6% and keep pace with inflation. That is the beautiful thing about financial planning. True financial planning is all customized to you and your specific situation. And that's really what I love doing here for my clients at ProStatus. And, if this is what you're looking for someone to tell me, here's what my chances are of success in retirement. Here's the way I make myself successful. Here's exactly where my income is going to come from on day 1 of retirement, in year 5 in retirement, year 10 in retirement. Here's how aggressive I can be. Here's the risk I'm taking. Here's what my taxes are going to be in retirement. Here's how I can save money on taxes. Give us a call, 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040, and sit down with myself and our team here at ProStatus, and we'll put together your very own financial plan that talks about the risk you're taking, that talks about the taxes. 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040, or visit us on the web at thesavvyinvestorradio.com. There's a button on my website that makes it as simple as can be. Just click that button, says schedule my call, and you do that without ever having to pick up the phone, which is my favorite way of setting appointments. Thesavvyinvestorradio.com, and just click on that button to schedule your call.
Advisory services offered through ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, a registered investment advisor. Insurance licensed in Maryland. ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if ProStatus Financial Advisors Group is licensed in your state, please call 410-863-1040. ProStatus Group, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through representatives of ProStatus Financial Advisors Group.